Most people were taught to follow the rules with money. Save it, spend it, borrow it, pay interest, hope retirement works out. But what if the rules were written by the very system keeping you stuck? Welcome to Cashflow Legendz, the show where we challenge conventional financial thinking, expose the hidden leaks in your cash flow, and help families and business owners build more control, certainty, and legacy. This show is for educational purposes only, not financial, tax, or legal advice. Hosted by Nate, Brandon, and Brock. Money, cash flow, legacy. Break the rules. Build your legend.
What's going on, Brock? So today we're missing the least handsome face of all three of us if you're watching this on YouTube. What's fun about this is Nate's going to watch this later and be reviewing it, and he's going to hear us say that. So if it doesn't make it on the show, Brock,
We know what happened.
we know what happened. All right. Today, Brock, we're going to be talking about why most financial plans fail before they ever even start. And that's not hyperbolic. We see this daily, right?
Yeah.
Brock, you normally are working with, not always, but 25 to 35 to 40-year-olds, and they feel really good about what they're doing. They're in the early stages of increasing their income. They're motivated, they're driven, and they think all it ever comes up to is just making more money. But when you ask them a few simple questions, they kind of start tilting their head and going, well, I've never been asked that before. And in our world, whether it's a business owner or somebody that's just getting started in their own household trying to think like a business owner, they are doing the best they can, as your dad taught us to say, with the present knowledge they have, or the best present knowledge they have. So nobody's showing up going, I hope I fail. Let's get real clear on that. But Brock, something is not working right if Americans are carrying over approximately $18 trillion in household debt. Something's not working, because I don't know what you see in your daily conversations, but one thing that we constantly see is that people aren't necessarily lazy. They're just overwhelmed and don't really know what to do next when you start asking good questions. What's something that you see often, or maybe a question you ask often for our listeners or somebody that comes to this later, that really opens up that portal in the brain to go, if I could solve that question, I really would feel more confident in what I'm doing next.
I think for me, it always goes back to the same question of how much money hits your bank account, how much leaves your bank account, and then how much is left over. Because I've really internalized the fact that all wealth is created through free cash flow. Like no matter what you do, all wealth is created through free cash flow. And most of the time, if you were to ask somebody how much they make, they would tell you what their gross income number is.
Did it 3 times this week. Every time.
Every
gross.
time. But what happens is we don't get gross, we get net.
Yes.
And so we have to understand, like, if our gross income is 200,000 and we live like we make 200,000, something's going to be off, and that plan will fail eventually. And so I think for me, a lot of times it goes back to that core question of what hits your bank account, what leaves your bank account, and what's left over.
So Brock, for the few out there who are like, well, what does that really mean? Because I know if I'd have listened to you say that 10 years ago, I mean, I get what you're saying practically, but let's just walk through. I get what you're saying as far as the thought, but let's walk through. Let's say, John Doe makes 100K gross.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what he was hired and signed off on contractually.
That's right.
Man, he's making 100K. That feels good. But as John Doe begins to look at the last year, what deposited into his bank account, let's be conservative and let's be kind and say 70 grand was deposited.
Okay.
All right. So 70 grand divided by 12 months, that's coming in monthly. So what you're saying is out of that 70 grand divided by 12 months, what are they spending to live? Household, lights, food, clothing, travel, vacation, entertainment, debt pay down, whatever it may be. And what you're saying is whatever amount's coming in monthly and whatever amount's going out, if there's a gap in there, that's your free cash flow.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's where wealth and stability, and I would add peace of mind, are created.
Yeah.
So talk about the opposite of that. Normally what's happening you said it already, but
Mhm.
go into more specifics about what you see often
Yeah.
to help people realize what they could do next. Because we don't
Right.
want to be a problem stater. What are the solutions?
Yeah. So what we typically see as someone comes in is that most of their paycheck is deposited into their checking account.
Mm,
And then if they have anything left over, they'll send it to their savings account. And so they're living in what we call the financial treadmill where they are unconsciously spending while trying to manually save money. And what this does is it goes back to this reality of not a whole lot of people actually know what hits their bank account and then know what leaves. And so if we don't understand those two numbers, there's no way for us to understand how much is left over. And if you don't know how much is left over, well, then how do you know how you are going to consistently put money away for the future? Because, when you think about it, the reality is if you want to have money later at a bigger number than what you have today, you have to consistently put money away. You have to consistently get a return on that money. And then you have to consistently wait for it to work.
yeah, Brock, this may be a terrible connected analogy, but I think it makes sense in my head. In any other walk of life, when we're trying to plan, we create something, there's leftovers, and we determine how we're going to use it. Okay. So we have a big family. One of my wife's favorite things to try to figure out is what meal can I cook that everybody likes?
Hmm.
We have 4 kids. Now, I grew up in the time where it's on your plate, you eat it.
Yeah.
You don't get to choose. We live in a different world now. So she's a phenomenal cook, but a lot of times there's certain meals she makes that she makes extra of because she knows we all love it and we're going to eat it the next day or maybe the next day. So there's leftovers. So that,
Hmm.
fortifies us for the week. And it's no different in money. If I have more coming in than going out, what do I do with those leftovers? Am I putting them to work? Am I helping them build something else? Getting my kids stronger because they all eat like full grown men right now with 3 boys in the house, those kind of things. So, Brock, what you just alluded to, we teach people often how to audit their life and how money is doing that in their life. Like literally take them through a practical exercise where they get clear on this is really what's happening. This is how much money's coming into my account. This is where it's going. This is how much we're saving and what environment. And this is the gap of income to expenses that we're keeping.
Hmm.
And then what are we doing with that? So that's one of the most advantageous things I think we offer people is the ability to do that
Yep.
because what it helps them do, Brock, is it helps them see what's really going on. And most of the time, like you just said, it helps them with their numbers realize that there is gravity on their money that they didn't know was occurring, that was affecting their wealth, that was putting them behind often, even though they thought they were getting ahead.
Yeah.
And so talk about that a little bit and just how, what we offer with that and why we think it sets us apart humbly because of so many aha moments when people are going through that process.
Right. Well, I think most of the time, if somebody was to go to a financial planner or a financial advisor or somebody in the financial industry to help you with your
Mhm.
finances, the conversation is almost always the same. Hey, what do you make? How old are you? When do you plan on retirement? And um, what kind of retirement income do you think that you're going to need at retirement? Like we know that answer for some reason.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
then they'll plug in all the numbers that you give them, and then some magical 30-year output number is going to show up on the screen, and they're going to show you this exponential curve, and then blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And they say, okay, well, you're off track, and here's what we could do: you can start saving more money. And we could do that through a budgeting exercise, help you cut some expenses,
Yep.
or you can try and get a higher rate of return, which would hopefully increase your wealth, right? And the
Yep.
third thing that they might offer, I doubt it, they're probably not really good if they do this, but they could say, oh, well, we could do it cheaper than your other guy. So you'll have more later. And so as you see those, like those are the main three things that people have going on when they meet with a financial advisor. And, when you think about it, there's not a lot of people who can just cut a bunch of expenses out of their life today. Could you save maybe 5% of your income if you're not saving? Sure. But
Yep.
to go from like 5 to 15, which is like the golden number, that would be really hard to do for most families. And then not a lot of people want to increase the risk on their money or can increase the risk on their money.
Yep. So Brock, I'm going to make a bold, well, it's not bold to you and I, but somebody listening for the first time, it may be very bold. Most people, myself included, before I began to see what's really possible, and I'm still learning daily. Most of people's biggest problem is that they are being taught to make a plan with the product, and they're completely unaware or not taught yet how there's a process going on,
Mhm.
and how order of operation and steps and which step you do first make a immense, just crazy amount of value or effect in your life that you can't see until you see them compared.
Right.
So back to the beginning, nobody walks into an office and goes, I want to be terrible at finances. But the
Yes.
reality is also, Brock, I'm not going to have a heart issue and decide to learn how to be a heart surgeon for surgery tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we
Mhm.
do this with finances. We hand it over.
Yeah.
But if you start asking really good questions of, hey, where do you feel stuck financially? Like I sent a message this morning. What gives you the most peace of mind? And for this particular, we call a member, client, she's like, this amount of money that I can see. It's liquid. Where it's liquid could be inside of her, whole life policy. It could be inside of her bank. It could be a combination of both because I'm not making any big moves, but that creates a ton of peace of mind. Okay,
Mhm.
let's start there. Now you have additional money that you've worked hard to create. What can we do with that to create more of this peace of mind?
Mhm.
And it makes sense to her. She's like, peace of mind is what matters to me because she has been through financial struggles where there was more going out than coming in. And so you couldn't convince her otherwise now that this is a process more than buying a product. Now, we can't get away from putting our dollars in products, right, Brock? In some
Right.
capacity. At a high level, what are the 4 things you can do with money? This is a simple one that I think anybody hearing this, it was an aha for me years ago. I was like, oh, it's really not that complicated. So what are those, Brock?
You can save it,
Yep.
you can spend it, you can give it away, and you can grow it. Are those the 4 things, right?
Yep, that's it.
I
Yep.
haven't said that in a while. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it has been a while.
yeah, you're correct on that. Those are the 4 things, but you do have to understand, like, there is the product side of things, and then there is the strategy side of things. And, when you look at most people's financial world, most people, number 1, have no idea where their finances are at in a sense of organization. Most people are living in a financial junk drawer. The next is they don't know the rules of the game by which they should play by, I'll say,
Yeah.
right?
Or
Then
they could, Brock.
or they could play by,
Yeah.
right? That's a good point. Or that they could play by. And then it comes back to this product versus strategy approach because if you were to break it down, right? And let's say that you wanted to pay off your home early, right? The product approach could be that you buy a 15-year mortgage. The strategy approach may be, well, what if I, instead of going to the 15-year route, took a 30-year mortgage, and then rather than paying early or more than my mortgage payment on my house, what if I took the freed up cash flow from going 15 to 30 and my regular free cash flow now and send it somewhere else that I could grow it over time? And then look at what the mortgage balance is compared to what the balance is in the account on the side. Could we accomplish the same result of paying the house off early with a strategy with more benefits, more money supply than with just, hey, I'm going to take a 15-year mortgage and pay as much as possible?
Yeah, Brock, let's put numbers to that just because I think that's so valuable. And I'm making these numbers up for anybody listening or watching. Let's say
Thank
15-year mortgage, you pay 2 grand a month. That's your required outlay.
you.
And let's say you went to a 30-year just for simple math and it was only 1 grand a month. I know that's not going to be the math, but you get the point. What
Right.
Brock's saying is there's $1,000 difference there over an extended period of time. What if we, Brock, anybody asking questions could say, let's reposition that $1,000 to do something else, and let's see if it'll let you do what you're trying to do, where you have more peace of mind, control, and certainty for when things go great or when
Hmm.
things don't go according to plan.
Hmm.
Because we talk about this often. Financial success is not a straight line. When you
No.
add kids, age, health, life events, potential litigation, eroding factors, as the LEAP model, we talk about that often, comes into play. those are things pulling on your wealth. And this is why when Nelson said there's only two things that money can be created by, time for money or money creating money. Like that makes so much sense. And so this is why when we talk to business owners, I actually was talking to one of my buddies this morning about his business, and he goes, I only have so many hours in the day. I'm like, you're exactly right. And when you go to sleep, does your money go to sleep? And then he was like, well, right now it is because I don't have anywhere that it's working for me. I'm like,
Yeah.
exactly. But if it goes into different environments, they do different things. So this is right back to what you're talking about, Brock, about we're not talking about products and paperwork. We're talking about principles and vision and long-term clarity and nimbleness and being able to be versatile when life happens.
That's right.
Because life is not a straight line. That's what makes it life. And
Yeah.
so when you hear that, Brock, as people are listening today, what are some common things that you see most often that are ahas that you love? Like when they go, oh man, I'm really only making 60 cents out of every dollar. So something has to change.
Mhm.
But now I know the problem.
Right.
But talk about that a little bit, just what you see often.
I think one of the first things that came to mind as you were talking is the fact that most of the time when you meet with a financial advisor or financial planner, you're going to be met with a 30-year plan. And that is like the quickest way to fail on a financial plan is having a 30-year plan.
Yep.
That like you just talked about, it is not linear. Life is going to happen. It has to be versatile and flexible. The person with the most options will
Mhm.
almost always win. And so when I think about that, one of the things um, that I think about is something in currents we talk about a lot is not financial planning, but financial positioning.
Yeah.
And when you look at like a chessboard, right? You want to position yourself for the best strategies, the most amount of moves in the game so that you can win. Well,
Yep.
the same is true within our financial life. We don't want just a financial plan, but we want a financial position to know that we have the most amount of options to be able to accomplish the results that we want.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, the best 30-year plans is a bunch of shortly tight knit 1-year plans
Yeah.
put together over time. And you think about some of those aha moments for families that we work with. One of them is right back at that mortgage talk the other day. This guy, he's like, man, I want to buy this house. We want to do this. We want to pay it off as fast as possible. Like, I'm looking at the 15-year mortgage and it's doing this thing and it's so expensive. And I said, okay, well, what if we just took a different route? And we did what we just talked about around taking a larger or longer term on the mortgage, taking the difference of money, investing it so that at that same rate, if we got to the 15-year mark and we wanted to pay it off, we could, but we didn't have to. The other is, I can't tell you how many times we meet with families and they're absolutely drowning in debt. They have all kinds of consumer debt, credit cards, cars, school. But then you look over into their retirement plan and they are maxing their retirement plan. Well, that retirement plan is the very thing that's causing all of the debt in the first place.
Say
And
that
the way
again, Brock, because that really needs to be understood.
so what I'm talking about there is the retirement plan is not so let me say that one more time.
Yep.
Most people that we meet, or a lot of people that we meet, are drowning in consumer debt. Cars, credit cards, school, all kinds of different debt. But yet, at the same time of them complaining about that debt, they're maxing out their retirement plans, when in reality, them maxing out their retirement plans is probably the reason why they are struggling so much on their debt. And when you think about it, if someone was to just stop maxing out their retirement plan and they took that money and they paid down their debts, they would likely be able to get so much further ahead financially by freeing up a lot more monthly cash flow to be able to put towards investments over time. And it doesn't take long. Some people will be like, oh, well, it's going to be 10, 20, 30 years, or I'm not going to be paying into my retirement plan. That's not the case. When you stop funding the 401k or whatever it is, you start paying down debt, you'll start to have an aha moment and start thinking through, oh, wait a second, this is going to happen a whole lot quicker than I expected. And I'll be able to start adding towards my wealth building, my cash flow engines so much sooner. And I'll be so much further ahead in time.
You reminded me of something. We're both baseball guys, and one of my favorite things in baseball is when you're playing defense, and for those who don't play baseball, when you're watching on TV or you're at the ballpark and the batter's up to bat, and normally the shortstop plays, about halfway in between shortstop and or second and third. And you kind of don't take your eyes off him for a little while, and the pitcher's working the batter trying to get him out, and then the batter smokes one. I mean, just hits it on the screws, and you're like, that's a base hit. And then you look up, and the shortstop catches it on one hop right up the middle. Most people would say, "Oh, how lucky was the shortstop? How did he just guess?" What they don't know is he's played shortstop most of his life in sports, and he knew what pitch was coming, how the pitcher had been working the hitter, what kind of swing the hitter had, and he anticipated and played the odds of this is my best chance to be in the right position for this batter. Now, throughout the course of a game, that happens, for 9 innings, and a lot of batters. That's the same thing with financial planning. We don't want to get to the point to where we're like, the guy's always going to hit it here. And I can't get it when he hit it there. We want to be nimble. We want to be mobile. We want to know all the moving pieces. So we have to step back and realize that becoming financially successful, and Brock, you coach me up all the time. I'm not talking at people, I'm talking to myself too, comes with accountability and the reality that maybe what I thought to be true wasn't.
And responsibility.
And okay. Yep. And responsibility, because we can know all the facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as Al Dickens said at one of the trainings we were at, no, he said this to me personally, he said, there's the tangible and the intangible. Okay. So for those of you listening or watching, you can tell yourself all day long, I'm going to do blah, 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 and I'm going to make it happen. The intangibles are, how are you motivated, driven, wired to take action when nobody's watching? Because coaches are only coaches. They can't get on the field and field the ground ball for you. And that's the same thing in financial life. But I think where the industry, and I want to be clear, we're not knocking financial advisors. We're knocking the approach. And if you had the choice to choose between two approaches, getting clarity on which one you would pick, that would give you more peace of mind. Because this is right back at it again. If we were in competition with financial advisors, then that would fuel their fire of why most have a problem with what we do, because they're trying to compare products. And we're going, hey, does your 25-year-old know what they want to be able to say 12 months from now? And do they have enough, flexibility to adjust if life changes? And they thought they were going to be single forever, and now they're engaged, and now they're looking at houses. And is there flexibility in those things to be able to adjust? And I think that's what you're saying, Brock, a lot is adjustability with accountability is really a better financial approach than just, oh, I'm doing this come heck or high water.
Yeah, agreed. Because I think, and this is something that I have to wrap my head around a lot, about the fact of like, when you think about most people's financial decisions, whether they realize this or not, when they make a decision, they're going to think that that is the decision that they're making for the rest of their life, right? So, and I'm going to do the 401k again. Not that I hate it or anything, but it's the easiest example because most people do it. Most people put money in their 401k and then they're like, okay, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Well, what happens if we go back into a reality of what was called the flat decade within the stock market? And you continuously put money into this account over and over again. And then you look up 10 years later and all you have in the account is what you put in the account, right?
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, is this the best decision for my money all the time, every time for the rest of my life? No. You got to have flexibility. You got to have nimbleness to say, hey, this was really good at this moment, but we're going to pivot. We're going to do something else for a little while.
Yeah. And Brock, I'm stuck on numbers today, but we see this often. The average household, family, business, okay, has bad consumer debt, like you talked about earlier. So let's just say conservatively, the average credit card debt is 25%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's conservative because it's normally 28 to 32 is what I see the most often, but 25. And let's say you're matching out you're maxing out your 401k plan or any other plan, at work. The fact of what has to occur if behavior doesn't change as far as income and expenses and creating a wealth gap, puts more pressure on the 401k and what it has to do to overcome the daily decisions you're making with the credit card. So what happens a lot of times, Brock, and this was an aha for me not long ago. Most of the people that we get to work with, when we do a cash flow audit, and let's say they have the bag credit card debt, and when they come up with a clear plan and they have the action, they do the things that it requires to put it into play, and they get rid of that behavior where I'm no longer giving 25% of the 60% that I make every year. Okay, because that's really what's happening. All right. No longer doing that. I have a better plan. And that now they have that 25% that's no longer leaving their life. Well, that's an increase in efficiency in their life of 25%. Over a lifetime, that is huge.
Massive.
Over a year, it's massive in the compounding. But oh, by the way, now I have better behavior to separate my income and my expenses, and I'm keeping 15 to 25% more of my dollars and putting them in better environments. At a high level with numbers, not specifically, that's a 25 to 35 to 45% swing of control of capital versus or control of money flow versus loss of money flow. And Brock, we didn't do anything in a product. We didn't lock it away. We just changed behavior. And so if we would have started this episode, Brock, with this, if what you thought to be true weren't, when would you want to know? And what would you be willing to do about it? Because knowing and doing are two different things. And if you could see that you could start controlling 15 to 20 to 30 to 40% more of your dollars, over time, because things take time to change behavior, what would that be worth for you? What would you do to explore that? And if the answer is nothing, then you're listening to the wrong episode, the wrong podcast, the wrong people. Because Brock, I don't know about you, but I'm going to talk to the men right now. Every man I talk to that is driven wants to provide the best way they possibly know how for their family, their business. So none of it's like a ill intent. And every wife that I visit with wants peace of mind and certainty and control and more time with their family.
Agreed.
Every single time.
Every time.
And so then we ask the question, is what you're doing currently accomplishing that?
And I think as simple as that sounds,
yeah,
right? It can be hard to believe like, hey, this is what we should do. And I think that goes back to like one of the questions that I always ask, and people are like, I don't know about this. Is the question when I have extra money, it comes down to one question. Do I want to increase my inflows by buying an asset, or do I want to decrease an expense? Right? That's question number one. Question two is when I go to make that decision, and it's just a double checkup for me. It's the same question.
Yep.
Which is, so I just asked myself as a reminder, I just asked myself, now that I have extra cash, do I want to increase my income or reduce an expense? And then when I go to make the investment in whatever the thing is, does this increase my income or does it decrease an expense? So for an example, whole life insurance. If I add whole life insurance, does this increase my income? Not necessarily, but does it decrease an expense? 1,000%, because I'm no longer having to pay for the term insurance, which is an expense because now I'm buying an asset. Well, we know, and this is why I was questionable on the first one of does it increase my income? We know that as we buy assets over time, they will allow us to have more income later.
Yeah, that's such a valuable connection. We haven't talked about becoming your own banker and whole life or anything like that much in this episode. But what you're alluding to is what Nelson would always say, once we know what the problem is, we'll know what to do. We get more clear on that.
Yep.
And you can't unsee these things once you see them. Now, you can still let your bad behavior get in the way and do it the wrong way.
Yep.
Exhibit A right here, talking.
Mhm.
But the awareness of it helps you get better and better. So, Brock, let's finish with this because I think this is something that's not talked about often enough.
Mhm.
And I think it resonates with probably 90 to 95% of people that are going to watch this later.
Mhm.
I believe most people's financial struggles or why they fail financially is because they're trying to do it on their own.
Yes.
Now, that can be relevant for behavior changes, health changes, relationship changes, and it all intertwines. But Brock, I was saying this to one of my buddies last night at church. If I had a room of 100 men that I went to a different place where there are 100 men every day for the next year. And I said, how many of you guys in this room have accountability built into your life for your faith, your family, your finances, your fitness, your fellowship? You're just being good steward of what God's given you. I'd be shocked from all my conversations if it was ever over 5% that would say yes to that question.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a little older than you with more gray hair, but that comes up. It's like the number gets less the older you get.
Yeah. Agreed.
Now, we forget, Brock, that we have the privilege of that being the norm.
Yeah.
Like, I have to remember that that's not the norm. So, guys, if you're listening and you're going, I don't want Nate and Brandon and Brock to know anything about what I'm doing. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. But you can't live in both thoughts. You can't go, I want to make changes, but I don't know how because I just don't know the right questions to ask. But a lot of what they're saying makes sense. And I want to do it on my own. You may figure out how to do it on your own. Absolutely. But the time and the energy and the effort, like my own personal story, is you're going to feel like you're just falling across the finish line.
Yeah. I'll tell you, just as a kind of a relatable answer, I started playing golf a couple years ago. I'm not great by any stretch of the means, right? But one of my buddies is a former professional golfer. And so when we go to play golf, I love playing with him because number one, I play better. But number two, I was struggling for the first part of this year of getting off the tee box. I couldn't get off the tee box with my driver to save my life. So I would always, just swing an iron and just call it a day and just move on, which is tough for me because most people know that like my driver is like I will outdrive majority of people out there. And so I was having a hard time with it. I, I couldn't figure it out. I spent time on the range. I was trying to do it all by myself. I couldn't figure it out until I went and played with my buddy. And my buddy said, "Hey, you slowed your hands down. You just need to swing faster with your hands." Sure enough, I started swinging faster with my hands again, and it was immediately improved. So I went from spending all of this time trying to figure it out on my own, what was going on. I was just trying to feel it all. And then I had my buddy who knows exactly what's going on, has seen my swing before, has seen other people swing before, has been in thousands of hours of training. And he just said, "Hey, dude, your hands aren't as fast. You need to speed your hands up." Did it, and then it was improved within one swing.
And that's such a great example, Brock, of this reality for men. I'm only speaking to men here. Often, the reason we try to lone wolf it is because we deep down, it's either a pride thing sometimes, or it's an ignorance thing. And I don't mean that in an ugly way. We don't even think about it because
Yeah.
when you're in the moment, it's cloudy.
Yeah.
I remember very similar thing for me, Brock. I play with guys that are way better than me. I've been playing more golf than I have in a long time. Well, guess what? In the last 3 weeks, my game is, for me, improved dramatically because a guy will say one little thing and I'm like, that just unlocked like a portal in my brain. I didn't even know I needed unlocked.
That's right.
Because if you hang out with people who want you to succeed, they're going to tell you the truth, even if you do or don't like it. And this is where we get to be coaches. And we take a lot of pride in getting to know who we're working with because it's not cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Like the example I just told you, Brock, of the lady earlier, I could take her exact same numbers, how much cash she has on hand, all this, what she's trying to do, and I could move it over to a different behavior client. And they'd be like, no, I don't need near that much cash on hand. I want to go make this money work and I want to replace all my income and blah, 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 blah. Okay. They know that about themselves and we know that about them.
Yeah, I would say that as men, I'm so bad at this. You'll always say, and I've heard you say it too.
Yep.
We'll always say, "Hey, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out."
Man.
Well, at some point, you're gonna have to figure out your finances because if you don't, you'll just continue to say, "Hey, I'll figure it out," and then it's too late.
Yeah.
So my usual call to action for men is, "Hey, it's time to actually figure it out and just stop saying it."
That's good. Brock, we were in a training not long ago where there was a statement made. I'm paraphrasing. There was a room of about 175 to 100 people. And in that room, the same 8 to 10 to 15% are the leaders of production. And the statement was made simply, in every room, there's talkers and there's doers. Which one are you going to be?
Yeah.
And that is the blunt reality of anything. I can talk about it all day long, or I can do it. And you trust me, you want people around you who go, didn't you say this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah.
Now, if it's changed, let's change it.
Yeah.
But if you're left to your own vices, you will convince yourself all day long that you don't need to do anything or ask for help. And I think
And
that's
I would
what you're
also
alluding to.
add to that is that a doer is someone who does it, but does it consistently over a long period of time. If you call
Yes,
yourself a doer, but then you quit and you revert when things get a little tough, you're not a doer.
that's good. So, Brock, most financial plans are built around a plan that's so far into the future that so many things can happen in life that it's not even really a plan. It's I hope.
Mhm.
I hope life goes perfectly and nothing changes, which we know is not the case. So, clarity, accountability, and action consistently is the best place to start. So, what does that mean? Well, we're biased, but we do this with each other. Brock holds me accountable with my finances, even when I'm struggling. And it's the behavior and the coaching. You get on somebody's calendar and you go, what can you teach me? And what am I willing to put into play? That's Brock's calendar, Nate's calendar, whoever's. And the cool thing is, Brock, we don't charge anything for the front side. Not everybody does. We're not knocking people who do. But if you're willing to get uncomfortable enough to get on a schedule, we're willing to spend 15 minutes with you to go, hey, let's see if we can help. Now you're going to have homework, growth work. And if you don't want to do it, then we're not a good fit.
That's right.
And that's okay. So that's a really, Brock, maybe we'll talk about this next time, but the difference between being told what to do and owning what you're doing.
That's right.
And the more clear you get on knowing what you want to do, the easier it is to own it and not get distracted by a lot of the noise, if you will. So, Brock, we're working on something that is going to become a really cool community. We're going to call it the Cashflow Legendz Inner Circle. All
Mhm.
right. And it's going to be something where you will have to pay to get in because it's as you say, Brock, and I use this all the time, those who pay attention. We've experienced that in our own life. We're not talking about anything crazy, but when you send a little bit of money somewhere, you're like, that matters.
Mhm.
And when you don't send a little bit of money somewhere, you're saying that doesn't matter, consciously
Right.
or subconsciously.
Yeah.
So we're working on building this to be a community of like-minded people who want to be connected in these conversations. And Brock, what would be maybe one thing you're most excited about that is going to be possible inside this community?
I think one of the biggest pieces is that we have clients from all over the country that are always asking us, well, what are other people doing? Who can I connect with? What can I do? And we're finally creating this space to where we'll have a community where people are together, they can learn together, they can grow together, and they can get to know one another in a community that's like-minded, that is just going to lift everybody together.
Love that, Brock. It reminds me, and we'll tidy up with this reminder of golf. Golf is fun, and as I've aged, I don't take myself seriously enough to get too frustrated most of the time, even though it's a very frustrating sport. But I have learned that in golf, it's much like life and finances. You can do it alone and score a great score and nobody see it. And it's not near as fun as scoring a great score with somebody seeing it or making a complete fool out of yourself and it being a great joke later because you're doing it with a community and you can talk about it.
That's right.
Now, I think it's better to do it together, and that's why we're building this community. So, for those of you listening, watching, we're very grateful for that. Put anything in the comments that you're like, hey, what does this mean or what does that mean? Know that you can find us and all the socials and anywhere else. But also, if you know us personally, just reach out to us and go, hey, what would you suggest doing next? And we'll be able to help. So, until the next one.
Thanks for listening to Cashflow Legendz. If this episode helped you think differently, subscribe to the show and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And when you're ready to start building your own cash flow system, schedule a clarity call with Nate using the link in the description. Money, cash flow, legacy, break the rules. Build your legend.